Episode 2 of The Chosen Season 4 kicks off with Jesus experiencing a vivid dream. In it, he meets John the Baptist, witnessing him break free from the chains and head towards a snowy mountain. Upon walking, Jesus finds Andrew also awake and the two discuss their grief over John's death. Jesus explains that there's no one right way to grieve and that sadness can often coexist with the moments of joy. Andrew calls Jesus a mystery, prompting Jesus to continue the Shiva, a traditional period of mourning, on open road, symbolizing John's true home. As they journey toward Mount Hermon, the disciples engage in various conversations. Thomas and Ramah decide to ask Jesus to be Ramah's witness or surrogate father for their engagement. Jesus uses this moment to discuss his mission with the disciples, emphasizing that he has come not to bring peace, but to cause division even within families, because loving God is paramount. Ramah tells Thomas he doesn't need a wedding gift, which Thomas takes literally, leading to Simon to explain the nonsense of marital communication. As they approach Caesarea, the group encounters remnants of pagan worship, including shrines to Baal and the gates of hell, a cultic site outside a cave considered an entrance to the underworld by pagans. The disciples are repulsed by the pagan rituals, especially those involving animals. At the altar of Pan, Jesus asks the disciples who people say he is and then who they think he is. When Simon declares that Jesus is the Christ, Jesus names him Peter, stating that he will build his church on the rock and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. He encourages the disciples to be brave and willing to follow him even into dark places. That evening, as the disciples camp, Big James and John grumble about Simon's new role as Peter, questioning if he's now the best among them. Matthew speaks privately with Jesus, confused about why Simon was elevated despite his harshness towards him. Jesus acknowledges Matthew's feeling but encourages him to seek forgiveness from Simon for his past actions as tax collector. Matthew is reluctant, fearing it will cause conflict, but Jesus insists that peace cannot exist while there is unresolved resentment. Back at camp, Simon Peter leads the disciples in the evening prayer. The next day, John and James continue their discussion about seeking high positions. They buy pistachios from a vendor and Nathanael demonstrates his ability to divide the knots evenly among the followers. Simon Peter shares his self-doubt with Andrew, while Tamar asks Matthew about how he decides what to include in his writings. Prompted by Jesus, Matthew finally apologizes to Simon Peter, but Simon walks away, still frustrated. That night, unable to sleep, Simon Peter recalls a difficult time from his past. He finds Jesus outside the city and questions why he should forgive Matthew repeatedly. Jesus responds that forgiveness should be given not just 7 times, but 70 times 7. Simon is reminded of the good that came from Matthew's action, yet he struggles to fully accept it and walks away angrily. As dawn breaks, John helps Thomas find a gift for Ramah by bartering pastures. Simon Peter arrives and seeing Matthew embrace him, forgiving him and noting that it was all for greater good. Yousef starts his day by reciting Ecclesiastes, reflecting on the transient nature of life. He notices a key with a mysterious significance to him but quickly hides it away. A man named Nathan seeks Yousef's help for his severe anxiety. Yousef suspects that the man carries the burdens of his ancestors and offers to pray with him daily. He almost refers Nathan to Jesus but stops himself. Yousef asks Jairus about his daughter, hinting at a miraculous healing. Jairus informs that the Samuel has been promoted to Sanhedrin and Nicodemus is absent, raising concerns about the rumors of the feeding of the 5,000. Shmuel, now in the ropes for his Sanhedrin membership, confides in Yanni about his doubts after encountering Jesus. Yanni dismisses his concerns, but Shmuel questions whether his Sanhedrin is truly focused on the nation's betterment or just posturing. At a Sanhedrin meeting, Rabbi Shammai praises Shmuel's effort to expose Jesus and condemns Jesus for his perceived contempt for the law and association with marginalized groups. Rabbi Simon attempts to defend Jesus but is quickly silenced. The high priest Caiaphas advises against directly executing the law of Moses on Jesus, suggesting they entrap him with questions to have Rome deal with him instead to avoid appearing chaotic and violent to the Romans. 4 horsemen are dispatched across Israel to instruct local leaders to oppose Jesus. Shmuel is deeply affected by the mention of John's death and decides he must find Jesus himself. 1 horseman arrives in Capernaum with news of edict against Jesus. Yousef, realizing the need for action, decides to leverage his father's wealth and influence to gain a seat on Sanhedrin. Using the key, he retrieves a mysterious pouch. The episode begins with Quintus having his boss sculpted when Atticus arrives, demanding the latest information on Jesus. Atticus expresses concerns that Jesus' ministry could lead to civil unrest, warning Quintus that his strong tax revenues are the only thing keeping him in Pilate's favor. Quintus needs to act to contain the threat. Later, Quintus summons Gaius and Julius, ordering them to clear out the tent city within a week. Gaius, distressed over his family situation, runs into Matthew. Matthew suggests that Gaius finds solace in Jesus, sharing how following Jesus helps him manage his own anxieties. Gaius is uninterested and advises Matthew to keep Jesus from preaching publicly during his tense time. Episode 2 of The Chosen Season 4 is rich with emotional and spiritual challenges for the characters. Jesus and the disciples grapple with grief, forgiveness, and the mission ahead. The political and social tensions surrounding Jesus' ministry heighten, with the Sanhedrin and Roman authorities preparing to confront him. The episode sets the stage for deeper conflicts and growth as characters are pushed to confront their fears, doubts, and responsibilities.